I came to surprise my son. Instead, I heard him tell his wife, "Just get rid of him before he sits down." I hadn't even crossed the hallway. I wasn't supposed to hear it. That's the thing about family humiliation. It always happens when they think you're out of earshot. Before continuing, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and write in the comments, where are you listening from? I'd driven 3 hours to surprise them. My son Derek and his wife Amanda had moved into their new house 6 months ago, the one I'd helped finance with $42,000 from my retirement account. They said it was temporary. They said they'd pay me back once Derek's promotion came through. I told them not to worry about it. That's what fathers do. The front door was unlocked. I could hear voices in the kitchen, laughter mixed with the clink of wine glasses. I was about to call out when I heard Amanda's voice, sharp and clear through the hallway. "He's going to want to stay for dinner. He always does. I'll handle it." That was Derek, my son. "We'll just tell him we have plans. Every time he comes over, it's the same thing. Stories about the hardware store, complaints about his apartment. It's exhausting." Amanda again. The edge in her voice could have cut glass. "And he smells like cigarettes and old coffee. I'd quit smoking 2 years ago. The coffee smell came from working the early shift at the store 4 days a week. At 67, I still needed the income, especially after that 42,000. I stood in the entryway, my overnight bag hanging from my shoulder. I'd packed it thinking maybe we could have a weekend together. Maybe help Derek with that fence he'd mentioned over the phone. Maybe just be family. Mom would have known how to deal with him. Derek's voice had dropped lower, but I could still hear every word. She had a way of setting boundaries. My wife, Ellen, had been gone for 3 years. Pancreatic cancer took her in 7 months. Derek had visited twice during that time, once for the diagnosis, once for the funeral. "Well, your mom isn't here." Amanda's heels clicked across their hardwood floor. The floor I'd helped install, on my knees for 3 weekends straight. And we need to establish some ground rules. Starting with tonight, I backed out slowly, closed the door with the same care I'd used opening it, got back in my truck and sat there for 20 minutes, watching their kitchen window. They never knew I'd been there. The drive home felt longer than 3 hours. Every mile was an inventory. 42,000 for the house, 18,000 for Derek's MBA program 7 years ago, 9,000 for the wedding, 6,000 for Amanda's emergency dental work that her insurance didn't cover, 3,000 for the security deposit on their first apartment, 2,000 here, 500 there, Christmas gifts, birthday checks, the car I'd sold them below market value because they needed reliable transportation. I'd kept receipts for the big things, not because I was planning to collect, because Ellen had always kept good records, and after she died, maintaining her systems made me feel less alone. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the same table Ellen and I had bought 34 years ago at an estate sale, and opened my filing cabinet. I'd never really looked at it all together before, never added it up. Now I couldn't stop. Ellen's medical bills. I'd handled those with our savings, and my pension early withdrawal. Derek knew about the cancer. He didn't know I'd taken out a second mortgage on our old house to cover the experimental treatments her insurance denied. Didn't know I'd sold the house at a loss 6 months after she died because I couldn't keep up the payments on my own. The total came to $137,000 over 12 years. Not counting the smaller amounts. Not counting my time. My phone rang at 9:15. "Derek? Hey, Dad. Just checking in. Haven't heard from you in a few days." His voice was cheerful, easy, like he hadn't just been discussing me as a problem to be managed an hour ago. "I'm fine. Working tomorrow." "Cool, cool. Hey, listen, Amanda and I are thinking about having Thanksgiving here this year. You interested? I looked at the receipts spread across my table. 42,000, 18,000, 9,000. Numbers that represented love, or what I'd thought was love. Let me check my schedule. Your schedule? He laughed. Dad, you work retail. Just take the day off. I'll let you know. Silence on his end. I'd never been unclear before. Never been anything but available. Okay, well, let us know soon. Amanda's doing the planning thing. After we hung up, I sat there until midnight. Then I opened my laptop and started making calls. Not many, just the ones that mattered. First was my bank, then my lawyer, then my accountant. By 2 in the morning, I had a plan. Not revenge, something cleaner than that. Something Ellen would have understood. Boundaries. Real ones. The thing about being someone's safety net for 12 years is that you forget you're allowed to move. They get comfortable with your position. They build their lives assuming you'll always be there, always be steady, always catch them when they fall. They forget you're not a net. You're a person who chose to be in that position. And people can choose to move. My lawyer's name was Patricia Morgan. I'd known her since Ellen's estate planning. She was efficient, direct, and charged reasonable rates. I need to understand what I'm legally obligated to provide my adult son, I told her on Monday morning. Her office smelled like lemon cleaner and old law books. In terms of financial support, nothing. He's 34 years old. Patricia leaned back in her chair. Why? I want to make sure I'm clear on that. You're clear. Parents have no legal obligation to adult children. Unless there's a documented disability or dependency situation. Your son has a job, correct? Engineering manager. Makes $92,000 a year. Then you're not obligated to give him a single penny. She paused. But I'm guessing this isn't about legal obligations. It's about choices. Mine. I handed her a folder. Inside were copies of all the receipts, all the bank transfers, all the records Ellen had kept and I'd continued keeping. Patricia went through them slowly. Her expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened slightly on the pages. You've been very generous. I thought I was being a father. Those aren't mutually exclusive. She looked up at me. But I understand the distinction you're making now. The $42,000 for the house, it was documented as a loan. I have the paperwork we signed. He's never made a single payment. Do you want to collect? I want to stop pretending it was a gift. Patricia nodded. I can draft a formal demand letter. Given the amount of time that's passed, you're within your rights to call the loan due. And the rest? Were they documented as loans? No. I never thought I'd need to document anything with my son. Then they're gifts. Legally, you can't reclaim them. She tapped the folder. But you can stop giving them. I already have. Does he know that? Not yet. Patricia smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who'd seen this story before. Would you like me to be present when you tell him? No. I'll handle it. Then let me give you advice, as someone who's done estate law for 30 years. She leaned forward. Whatever you're planning, document everything. Dates, times, conversations. People rewrite history when money's involved, and your son has a lot of motivation to rewrite this particular history. I drove straight from her office to my bank. The manager's name was Robert Chen. We'd known each other for 15 years. He'd helped Ellen and me refinance our mortgage. He'd handled her estate after she died. He knew the whole story. I need to close the joint account, I told him. Derek and I had opened it 5 years ago. His idea. He said it would be easier for emergencies, easier for me to help out when needed. I'd kept $20,000 in there as a buffer. It was down to 4,200 now. The account requires both signatures to close, Robert said. But you can remove yourself and convert it to an individual account in his name. How long does that take? I can do it right now. He'll receive notification in the mail, but it'll be effective immediately. Do it. Robert typed for a few minutes, then looked up. Done. The remaining balance is now entirely in his name. You have no access, and more importantly, no liability. Good. Can I ask what's going on? I told him. Not everything. Just enough. Robert nodded slowly. My father helped me buy my first house. 25,000 down payment. I paid him back over 5 years because he asked me to. Said it was important that I understand the value of the gift by taking responsibility for it. He printed out a receipt for my records. I didn't understand at the time. I do now. That lesson was worth more than the money. Derek's about to learn a similar lesson. Some people don't learn. Robert stood up and shook my hand. But you're not responsible for his education anymore. Not at this age. From the bank, I went to my insurance agent, then my accountant. Then I sat in my truck in a parking lot and made a list. Derek was listed as the beneficiary on my life insurance policy, $400,000. I changed it to split between 3 charities Ellen and I had always supported. The Children's Hospital where Derek was born, the Cancer Research Foundation, the local food bank. My 401k had Derek listed as the primary beneficiary. That became the same 3 charities. My accountant walked me through the tax implications of everything. Then she said something I hadn't expected. You should know that if you do predecease your son, he could potentially contest these changes, especially if he can argue undue influence or diminished capacity. I'm 67 and in good health. I'm not questioning that. I'm telling you what a lawyer might argue. Then what do you suggest? Get a medical evaluation, a basic competency assessment. It's not expensive, and it creates a record that you're of sound mind when making these decisions. I did that too, doctor. Sarah Kim had been my physician for 8 years. She ran me through a cognitive assessment that took 45 minutes, memory tests, problem-solving exercises, basic mental status examination. You're sharper than most 50-year-olds I see, she told me. Why did you want this done? Making sure my choices are documented as my choices. She understood immediately. Family issues. Something like that. She printed the results and signed off on a formal letter of competency. This should protect you if anyone questions your decision-making capacity. I kept the letter with the rest of my growing file. 3 weeks had passed since the night I'd stood in Derek's hallway and heard myself described as a burden. 3 weeks of calls I didn't return immediately. 3 weeks of excuses about being busy with work. 3 weeks of Derek slowly realizing something had changed. He invited me to dinner on a Tuesday. Not a holiday, not a special occasion, just dinner. I knew why. I went anyway. Their house looked good. The fence I'd planned to help with was already built. Professional job. Must have cost $3,000 at least. Amanda answered the door. Her smile was practiced. Perfect. The smile of someone who'd been coached on hospitality. Robert, so good to see you. Come in, come in. I noticed she didn't hug me. She usually went for a side hug, the kind that didn't require actual physical warmth. Derek was in the kitchen, grilling salmon on their indoor grill, the expensive one I'd bought them for Christmas last year. $500 at Williams-Sonoma. Dad. He wiped his hands on a towel and came over. The hug was brief but genuine. Whatever else he was, Derek had never been completely fake. How are you? Working? Keeping busy? You look good. Lost weight? I hadn't. I'd probably gained weight from eating too much takeout. But this was the dance we were doing. Pleasantries before the main event. Dinner was good. Amanda had made an effort. Salmon, roasted vegetables, a salad with that expensive cheese from the farmer's market, wine that cost more than $30 a bottle. I know because I'd taught Derek about wine. We used to go to tastings together when he was in college. We talked about weather. We talked about their jobs. We talked about their plans to renovate the bathroom. We didn't talk about money or my absence or the fact that I'd been quietly dismantling our financial relationship piece by piece. Dessert was when it started. So, Dad, Derek refilled my wine glass. Amanda and I wanted to talk to you about something. Okay, we're thinking about the future, starting a family maybe. And we realized we need to have some conversations about support systems, about who we can count on when things get complicated. I took a sip of wine. Makes sense. We need to know you're going to be around, available, like you've always been. There it was. The ask before the ask. I'm not going anywhere. Good. That's good. Derek looked at Amanda. Some kind of signal passed between them. Because we're going to need help with the next project. What project? We're putting an addition on the house. 2 more bedrooms. Another bathroom. If we're going to have kids, we need the space. Sounds expensive. That's what we wanted to talk to you about. Amanda's voice was smooth, rehearsed. We know you helped with the down payment. We're so grateful for that. And we were hoping you could help us with this next phase too. How much are we talking about? 90,000. But we'd only need about 30 from you. We're getting a construction loan for the rest. I set down my wine glass. $30,000. We know it's a lot. Derek leaned forward. But think of it as an investment in your future too. In your grandchildren. This house will be where they grow up. Where you'll visit them. Where we'll have Christmas mornings and birthday parties. Grandchildren you're planning to have. Well, yeah, hopefully soon. I looked at both of them. Derek's face was open, expectant. He really believed this was reasonable. Amanda's expression was harder to read, but I saw something in her eyes. Calculation. She'd known this was a long shot, but they decided to try anyway. I can't do that. Silence. Complete and sudden, like someone had turned off the sound in the room. Can't or won't? Amanda asked. Both. Dad. Derek's voice had an edge now. We're talking about your grandchildren, who don't exist yet, but they will. We're planning for the future. That's what responsible adults do. Responsible adults also pay back their loans. I watched the words land. Derek blinked. Once, twice. What? The $42,000 for this house. We documented it as a loan. You've never made a single payment. That was, he stopped, recalculated. We talked about that. You said it was fine. You said, take our time. I did. I also said it was a loan, and loans get repaid. Amanda's face had gone carefully neutral. This feels like it's coming out of nowhere. Does it? Yes. Derek stood up. Dad, what's going on? You've been distant for weeks. You don't return calls. You're suddenly concerned about money you've never cared about before. I've always cared. I just didn't think I needed to remind you. We're your family. I know. That's why I helped you. But being family doesn't mean I'm an ATM. An ATM? Amanda's voice went sharp. Is that what you think we see you as? I could have lied, could have softened it. Instead, I pulled out my phone and opened my voice memo app. I'd been recording since I walked in the door. Patricia had suggested it. One-party consent state. Perfectly legal. I played back the last 5 minutes. Their voices, clear and undeniable, asking for $30,000. Not as a favor, as an expectation. What the hell? Derek stared at the phone. You're recording us? I'm documenting a request for a substantial amount of money. Patricia suggested I keep records. Patricia? Your lawyer? Yes. Amanda stood up now too. This is insane. You're treating us like we're criminals. I'm treating this like a business transaction, which is what it is. We're not a business. Derek's face was red. We're your son and daughter-in-law. Then act like it. What's that supposed to mean? I stood up slowly, carefully. I'd rehearsed this part in my head for 3 weeks. It means I heard you. 3 weeks ago, I came to surprise you for the weekend. I was standing in your hallway when Amanda said I was exhausting. When you talked about managing me, when she complained that I smell like cigarettes and old coffee, the color drained from Derek's face. I wasn't supposed to hear that, but I did. And it made me think about a lot of things, about how much I've given, about how much you've taken, about what family actually means. Dad, I'm not done. My voice was steady. That surprised me. I'd expected to feel angry or hurt or something sharp. Instead, I felt calm, clear. I've spent $137,000 on you over the past 12 years, not counting smaller amounts, not counting my time or labor or the things I can't put a price on. We never asked you to keep track. No. You just assumed I'd keep giving, because you're our father, which is exactly why I gave. But you're not a child anymore, Derek. You're 34 years old. You make $92,000 a year. And you've been treating me like a burden while expecting me to finance your life. Amanda found her voice. If you felt this way, why didn't you say something before? Because I loved you, both of you. And I thought that was what family did. And now? Now I'm setting boundaries, real ones. Boundaries. Derek laughed. It was a bitter sound. You mean punishment. I mean boundaries. The loan I gave you for the house? I want it repaid. Patricia is drafting a formal demand letter. You have 90 days. 90 days? We don't have that kind of money. Then you'll need to figure it out. Refinance. Take out a loan. Sell something. I don't care how you do it, but it's time to take responsibility. Mom would be ashamed of you. The words were meant to hurt. They did, but not in the way he expected. Your mother was with me when we signed the loan documents. She's the one who suggested we document it. She said you needed to learn responsibility, but I convinced her to be patient, to give you time. I picked up my jacket from the chair. She was right. I was wrong. Where are you going? Home. We're not done talking. Actually, we are. You'll receive the demand letter in a few days. You'll also receive notification that I've removed myself from our joint bank account. I've changed my beneficiaries on my life insurance and retirement accounts. And I've gotten a medical evaluation confirming my mental competency, just in case you decide to claim I'm not thinking clearly. I headed for the door. Derek followed me. You're really doing this? You're going to destroy our relationship over money? I stopped, turned around. You destroyed it when you called me a burden. I'm just acknowledging what's already broken. I didn't mean it. It was just we were venting. People vent. I know. And I learned what you really think of me. Dad, please. The please almost broke me. Almost. But then I remembered Amanda's voice saying I was exhausting. I remembered Derek agreeing. I remembered standing in that hallway like an intruder in my own son's life. You're going to have to figure this out on your own. I can't keep trying to save you financially while you resent me emotionally. I left, got in my truck, drove home through streets that felt different now, cleaner somehow. Like I'd been carrying weight I didn't know I had until I set it down. My phone started ringing before I hit the highway. I didn't answer. It rang 47 times that night. I turned it off around midnight and slept better than I had in weeks. The demand letter arrived at Derek's house on a Thursday. Patricia had been thorough. It outlined the loan amount, the original terms, the complete lack of payment history, and the 90-day deadline. It also included a detailed accounting of every other dollar I'd given them over 12 years, not as money owed, as context, as proof that this wasn't about being stingy or suddenly mercenary. This was about establishing that $42,000 was enough. Derek showed up at my apartment on Friday. I'd just gotten home from my shift at the hardware store. I was still in my work vest, my hands smelling like the pine boards I'd been cutting all afternoon. He was sitting on the steps to my building, waiting. "We need to talk. You got the letter." "Of course I got it. What the hell, Dad?" I unlocked the door and went inside. He followed me up 3 flights of stairs to my apartment, the small one-bedroom I'd moved into after selling the house. 600 square feet of practical living space that cost me $800 a month. Derek looked around like he was seeing it for the first time. He probably was. He'd never visited me here. "You live like this?" "It's clean. It's safe. It's what I can afford. But," he gestured vaguely, "after selling the house, you should have more." "Where did all the money go?" I went to my filing cabinet, the same one Ellen had used, pulled out the folder I'd shown Patricia. $42,000 for your house, $18,000 for your MBA, $9,000 for your wedding, $6,000 for Amanda's dental work, $3,000 for your apartment deposit. I laid each receipt on the table, one by one, proof of every sacrifice. The rest went to your mother's medical bills. The experimental treatments insurance wouldn't cover. The hospice care. The funeral. Derek stared at the papers. "I didn't know. You didn't ask. You never said you were struggling. Would it have mattered?" He didn't answer. Couldn't answer. We both knew the truth. "I can't pay you back in 90 days. His voice was quiet now. "Different. We don't have that kind of liquidity. Everything's tied up in the house and our retirement accounts. Then refinance. Take out a home equity loan. Borrow from Amanda's parents. I don't care how you do it. Her parents hate me. You know that. Not my problem. You're being cruel. I'm being clear. There's a difference." Derek sat down heavily in one of my 2 kitchen chairs. He looked older suddenly, tired. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to take responsibility. I want you to understand that gifts have to be given freely, not taken as entitlement. I want you to stop treating me like a burden while expecting me to subsidize your life. I don't treat you like a burden. You called me exhausting. You complained about how I smell. You discussed managing me like I'm a problem to be solved. That was—" He stopped, started again. "That was Amanda. She was having a bad day. You agreed with her. I was being supportive of my wife, at my expense." Silence filled the apartment. Outside, I could hear traffic. A siren in the distance. Normal city sounds that reminded me life was bigger than this moment. "I'll talk to Amanda," Derek finally said. "We'll figure something out. You have 90 days, and if we can't, then you'll have to deal with the consequences. I'll file a claim. It'll go to court. You'll either pay or you'll have a judgment against you." "You'd really do that? You'd really take your own son to court? You'd really take $42,000 from your own father and never pay it back?" He stood up, looked at me like he was seeing someone he didn't recognize. "Mom would be ashamed of both of us. Your mom would be proud of me for finally standing up for myself." Derek left without another word. I listened to his footsteps going down the stairs, then the sound of his car starting in the parking lot. I sat at my table for a long time after that, looking at the receipts. Ellen's neat handwriting on some of them, her signature on others. She'd always been better with money than me, better with boundaries too. I missed her so much it hurt. But I knew I was doing the right thing. Finally. The 90 days passed slowly. I went to work, came home, read books, watched television, lived a small, quiet life that felt bigger than it had in years. Derek called once, in week 3, asked if we could negotiate. What's there to negotiate? The amount, the timeline. Something. No. Dad, please. We're trying. We're really trying. Then you'll figure it out. He called again in week 7. This time Amanda was on the line too. We've been to our bank, she said. Her voice had lost its smooth edge. We can get a home equity loan, but the payments will be high. We'll have to cut back on everything. Welcome to budgeting. You're enjoying this. Accusation. Sharp. I'm not enjoying anything. I'm simply following through on terms we agreed to 12 years ago. We were kids then. Derek was 22. That's not a kid. That's an adult who should know better. The line went quiet. Then Derek. We'll have the money by the deadline. Good. But I want you to know this is damaging our relationship. Possibly permanently. Our relationship was damaged when you started seeing me as a resource instead of a person. I'm just making it official. They hung up. On day 87, I received a cashier's check. $42,000. Certified. No personal note. No apology. Just the money and a receipt showing the debt paid in full. I deposited it the next morning. Robert processed the transaction with a knowing look. How does it feel? Heavier than I expected. Money usually does, especially when it costs something else. I thought about that on the drive home, about what this had cost. The relationship with my son, the fantasy of being needed, the comfortable lie that I was helping instead of enabling. But I also thought about what I'd gained. Clarity, boundaries, the right to say no. That was worth more than $42,000. Derek didn't call for 6 weeks after that. No birthday call, no checking in, just silence. Amanda unfriended me on Facebook. I noticed because I stopped seeing photos of their house, their renovations, their carefully curated life. That should have hurt more than it did. My lawyer, Patricia, called in month 4. I wanted to give you an update. Derek's attorney contacted me. He got an attorney? He did. They're asking about the possibility of you forgiving the remaining balance of what you've given them over the years. Remaining balance? The $95,000 in gifts. They're claiming it was all given with the understanding of eventual repayment and that you're now demanding it back. I felt something cold settle in my chest. That's a lie. I know, which is why I need you to be very clear with me. Were any of those other amounts documented as loans? No, I gave them freely. I never expected repayment. Then they have no legal standing, but they're going to try to paint you as vindictive, as someone who's changing the terms, retroactively. Can they do that? They can try, but your documentation is solid. The medical assessment, the recordings, the receipts, all of it shows a pattern of generosity that you're now choosing to end. That's not illegal. That's your right. What do I need to do? Nothing. Just be prepared for them to make noise. Maybe talk to people you both know. Try to control the narrative. She was right. By week's end, I started hearing from other family members. Derek's aunt, my sister Carol, called first. What's going on with you and Derek? He didn't tell you? He said you're having some kind of breakdown, that you're being irrational about money. I laid it out for her. All of it. The overheard conversation, the loan, the 90 days, the repayment. Carol was quiet for a long time. Then, I had no idea you'd given him that much. Nobody did. He makes it sound like you're cutting him off for no reason. I'm cutting him off because he sees me as a burden, unless I'm writing checks. That's not the Derek I know. Maybe you don't know him as well as you think. She didn't call back, but others did. Derek's godfather, a cousin, two friends from church, each one calling because Derek or Amanda had reached out, each one hearing Derek's version first. I told them all the same story. Facts. Numbers. Receipts when needed. Some believed me. Some didn't. Some just stopped calling. I learned that taking a stand means standing alone sometimes. Thanksgiving came. No invitation. No call. I worked the holiday shift at the hardware store and had turkey from the diner down the street. Christmas was the same. I bought myself a new television and watched movies all day. New Year's, I made a resolution. No more guilt about choosing myself. In February, something unexpected happened. My daughter-in-law, Amanda, called. Not Derek, her. Can we talk? Just you and me? About what? About everything. Please. I need to say some things. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our places. Neutral ground. Amanda looked different, thinner, tired. The polished veneer had cracked. I'm leaving, Derek. I didn't know what to say to that. I wanted you to hear it from me, before he spins it somehow. Why are you leaving? Because you were right. About all of it. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. The money, the expectations, the way we treated you. I didn't see it at the time. I saw you as this resource, this bank we could tap whenever things got tight. Why? Because Derek did, and I just went along with it. But after you demanded the loan back, after we had to scramble and refinance and actually face what we'd done, I started seeing things clearly. What things? That we'd been using you. That Derek's been using everyone his whole life. His mom, you, me. He's never had to stand on his own because someone always caught him. I taught him that. No. You loved him. He learned to exploit it. There's a difference. She told me about the fights, about Derek's anger when she suggested they budget, about his insistence that I was the problem, not them, about his plan to contest my will if I died before reconciling. I told him that was disgusting. We fought for 3 days, and I realized I didn't like who I'd become, who we'd become together. I'm sorry. Don't be. You did me a favor. She finished her coffee. I wanted to apologize for what I said, for how we treated you. You deserved better. Thank you. And I wanted you to know the addition we were planning, the one we wanted $30,000 for, we didn't need it. We wanted it. Derek wanted it because his coworker had a bigger house. I wanted it because I thought it would make us look successful. Did it work? No. It just made us broke and miserable. She left after that. I never saw her again. But I appreciated the apology. The divorce was final by June. Derek called in August. First time in months. I need to borrow money. Not hello. Not how are you. Just the ask. No. Dad, I'm serious. The divorce is killing me financially. Amanda took half of everything. I can't make my mortgage payment. Refinance. Sell. Downsize. Figure it out. I'm your son. You're a grown man who needs to learn to live within his means. I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe it. Took me this long. He hung up. That was 14 months ago. I heard through Carol that he sold the house, moved into an apartment, got a roommate, started living like someone who actually has to budget. I heard he's dating someone new, someone who works as a teacher, someone who doesn't care about additions or renovations or keeping up with coworkers. I heard he's doing okay. I haven't talked to him since that last phone call. Do I miss him? Every day. Do I regret what I did? Not for a second. Because here's what I've learned in the past 2 years. Boundaries aren't cruelty. Saying no isn't abandonment. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is stop saving them from themselves. I still work at the hardware store, still live in my small apartment, still manage on my pension and part-time wages. But I also started taking woodworking classes. Ellen always said I had good hands. I'm building furniture now. Small pieces. A coffee table. A bookshelf. A hope chest. I sold 3 pieces last month. Nothing fancy, but people liked them. Said they had character. I'm putting the money in a savings account. Maybe for travel someday. Maybe just for security. Maybe for nothing at all except the knowledge that it's mine and I don't owe it to anyone. Patricia called last week. Said Derek's attorney contacted her again. He wants to know if you'd be willing to restart the relationship. Clean slate. What did you tell him? That I'd pass along the message, but that my client has established clear boundaries and intends to maintain them. Good. He asked if you were open to therapy, family counseling. What would be the point? Reconciliation, understanding, healing. I thought about that, about whether I wanted to sit in a room with Derek and hash out years of resentment and disappointment, about whether understanding would actually change anything. Tell him no. Tell him I'm not interested in reconciliation right now. Maybe not ever. That's your choice. It is, isn't it? She laughed. Yes. Finally. I think about that conversation a lot. About the word finally. About how long it took me to understand that love without boundaries isn't love, it's enablement. Ellen knew that. She tried to tell me, but I was too busy being needed to hear her. I hear her now, in the quiet of my apartment, in the wood shavings on my workbench, in the balance of my bank account. She's telling me I did the right thing, that standing up for myself doesn't make me a bad father. It makes me a person who finally learned to value his own dignity. I hope she's proud. I hope wherever Derek is, he's learning the lessons I should have taught him 20 years ago. And I hope, someday, he'll understand why I had to say no. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I finally started loving myself. Last week, something happened that I didn't expect. A letter arrived. Handwritten. Derek's address on the return label. I stared at it for 20 minutes before opening it. Inside was a single page. Derek's handwriting. Messy, like always. Dad, I've been in therapy for 6 months. Court-ordered at first, because of the divorce. But I kept going after. I'm learning things about myself I don't like. About how I was raised, not your fault, just patterns, and how I turned those patterns into habits. I used you. I know that now. I saw you as a safety net instead of a person. And when you pulled that net away, I fell hard. I was angry for a long time. I told everyone you'd changed, that you'd become bitter and cruel, but you hadn't changed. I just finally saw what had always been there. Boundaries. I'm not writing to ask for anything. I'm not writing to apologize, because I don't think sorry fixes this. I'm writing because my therapist said I should tell you the truth. So here it is. You were right. About the money. About the entitlement. About me needing to grow up. I don't know if we'll ever have a relationship again. Maybe that ship sailed. Maybe I burned it. But I wanted you to know that I get it now. And I'm trying to be better. Not for you. For me. Derek, I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in the drawer with Ellen's things. I don't know if I'll respond. I don't know if Derek expects me to. But I know this. He's finally taking responsibility. Not for me. Not for Amanda. For himself. That's all I ever wanted. The hardware store is closing next month. Corporate merger. They're letting the older employees go first. Early retirement package, they call it. I'm taking it. The severance is decent. Enough to live on for a year while I figure out what's next. Maybe I'll expand the woodworking. Maybe I'll travel. Maybe I'll just sit in my apartment and read books and enjoy the silence. The point is, I get to choose. For the first time in decades, I get to choose what I do with my time, my money, my life. And I choose me, not because I'm selfish, not because I stopped caring about Derek, but because I finally understand what Ellen was trying to teach me all those years ago. You can't pour from an empty cup, and I've been empty for a very long time. Carol called yesterday, said Derek's doing better, said he's been talking about me, asking if she thinks there's a chance we could reconnect. What do you think? She asked. I think that's up to him and me, and whether we can build something new instead of trying to fix what's broken. That sounds healthy. That sounds like 2 years of learning to set boundaries. She laughed. You've changed. No, I just stopped pretending I hadn't. That's the thing about standing up for yourself. Everyone calls it change. But really, it's just finally being honest about who you've been all along. I was always someone who valued dignity and respect. I just forgot that included my own. Derek taught me that. Not intentionally, but sometimes the best lessons come from the hardest teachers. I don't know what happens next. Maybe Derek and I find a way forward. Maybe we don't. But I know this. Whatever happens, I'll face it as someone who knows his worth. Someone who doesn't apologize for having boundaries. Someone who understands that the best thing you can teach your children isn't how to take, it's how to stand. And I'm standing. Finally. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what part shocked you the most. To listen to the next story, just click on the box on the right side of the screen. Thank you for being here.